Jordan Bohannon, Jared Stansberry. It's Jared and J-Bo on Iowa Everywhere. This is Iowa Everywhere.
Yo, welcome to the podcast on Iowa Everywhere. Jordan Bohannon is in Las Vegas. He's convinced that it's rigged. You think Las Vegas is rigged? That's how rigged it is. It's like you can't even you got to be ready to go in.
I'm not one to ever say people should face offenses or go to jail, but automatic card shufflers, dude, that might be the most criminal of all. Like past referees, like this shit is unbelievable. I kid you not. I played I'm not even joking, for maybe 4 minutes. And I saw 20, 20, 21, 20, 21, 20. Oh, and then the best part is when there is a bus car that the dealer's showing, let's say there's a 6 showing, and I got a nice 11, right? I get a 9. Solid hand, right? It's something you would think would win. Odds are in my favor. Flip a 5, smack a fucking picture on it. It's unbelievable, Jared. And at this point, I think the casinos need to be audited. I think it's at the point now that the casinos are getting way too big. The towers are getting way too tall. The strip is getting way too long. And it's
the strip. That's the problem. If you were talking about our friends at Circus Sports, this wouldn't be an issue over on Fremont Street. The problem is that you're at the strip.
I have heard about Fremont Street, and I wanna go there. I think the odds, because what's Blackjack? It should be like 50-48, right? It's like one of the higher percentage odds in the casino, right? I think honestly, Jared, it's 75-25 in favor of the casino. Whatever they do with these automatic card shufflers. I mean, I was searching on the dark web last night. Like, I was deep in the rabbit hole of conspiracies. Like, do they know? Like, are they censoring the cards? Like, that's how bad it was. And at this point, man, like, I don't know. I know I'm not gonna, like, you should never want
the house always
make
wins.
money. You should never expect to make money. But
yeah,
I can't have a little more. I can't play more than 5 minutes. I can't have a little bit of fun.
See, I would think
it felt like a chore.
They want you to stay at the table, so why wouldn't they mix a few wins in there for you?
See, that's what makes sense. I couldn't even sit at the table long enough, Jared, to 1, order a drink, and 2, have the drink get delivered back to me. Oh yeah, the waitress comes the next time I take money out and put it back on the table. Oh, finally, I see her, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, can I get a rum and coke? 4 minutes later, I'm not there anymore. I can't even get a drink.
You're gone.
It's unbelievable.
Oh man. Well, you're out there for what's it called? The GLeague Showcase, right? How are you excited to play in that?
We already played. We're done. Well,
you already played.
We lost in the first round. We did qualify. We're the one of 8, one of the 8 teams in the entire league that qualified, but we didn't play too well. I got a good amount of minutes. Played about 15 minutes, so I was happy to start seeing the floor a little more. But man, there's some good players out here.
Was it in like a ballroom?
Yeah, dude. It's like we all stay at Mandalay Bay, and it's at the convention center. It's like deep, like it's like hella restricted. Like no fans are allowed, and it's like in like a huge like not a ballroom, but like a warehouse. Like, it's a pretty good setup, but it felt like a little bit like AAU days, a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, it's basically like a made-for-TV event, isn't it?
Right.
It's almost like a studio setup. Yeah. That's exactly cool. Have you ever seen like the Overtime Elite, that new league that they have? That's kind of the same way. That looks cool just because I feel like they made it look cool just to try and make it like trendy,
Yeah.
make it kind of hip.
Yeah, it's definitely cool. Like the showcase is a cool event. Like how they split up the G League schedule, like how there's like the showcase and the all the way up until now, and then the regular season starts technically after Christmas. So I think they do a good job, man. I've been really impressed this year, like playing the G League and how everything's ran. It's a good organization.
For sure. All right. Well, this is just delaying the conversation that we need to have this week. You've been under fire over the last several days since the news. Well, I guess it was, rumors, now confirmed news that Kadyn Proctor, the 5-star offensive tackle from Southeast Polk, long committed to Iowa, decommits, committed today to Alabama as expected, going to play for the Crimson Tide. People obviously are not happy about this taking place, especially the fact that he was committed as long as he was. And then to make this decision the day before signing day, I guess what's been your reaction to this point?
It's a weird situation. I will start off saying I don't know how I am getting blamed for an athlete making money and going somewhere that is going to positively impact his life. I don't know how I get, one, how that's a bad thing, and two, why is it my fault? Why?
Mm-hmm.
But like when McNamara, we get a transfer, do I get any congratulations? I didn't see any applause. Did you, Jared?
I did not.
Oh, okay. I was just wondering. I didn't know. I didn't see anything, but I do actually see where fans are coming from now. I will say this. I will take their side on this. If you think about NIL collectives and how much involved the fans are now, they're basically paying for some of these athletes to come to these schools. So I do understand from that aspect. However, I still continue to put the blame on these universities and the NCAA because they have allowed these NIL collectives to basically be ran by these fans and boosters, and they're basically
they've allowed it to be hijacked. It got hijacked.
It got hijacked, which I still don't see a problem. I don't see a problem if athletes are being asked to go play somewhere and people want to pay them, let them make money. I don't see a problem with that. However, it was never intended for these fans to be so pressured to get these recruits. Because let's be honest here, the revenue that's being produced by these schools, like it's way more than what it ever has been, right? Like it keeps growing exponentially year by year.
It's way more too than what they would ever be able to raise as a collective, unless it's like Oregon, and Phil Knight's going to give however much money, hundreds, like $100 million a year or more for some of these schools.
Yeah. And it's not like, I understand, like people have argued with me on social media about, I've had actually a lot of good debates. I do want to give a lot of applause to people because they have been really good on Twitter about debating with me. But a lot of people realize like the football revenue is not being brought in by the NCAA, right? Like it's all by these schools, by ticket media, by these conferences, making TV deals and such. So the NCAA doesn't really see or hasn't seen any of this football revenue. So technically, like you can blame the universities, but for having it get to this point, right? But I still think the NCAA, since them being the power that they hold and having a monopoly, they need to come out and have some guardrails and saying, like there needs to be some stuff going on with NIL to make it playing field. There needs to be, revenue sharing, like make it like the pro model and have them be that leader that they haven't been. And it says a lot about how they're directing the future of the college sports because they continue to try to fight against NIL and against revenue sharing. And this is what's making it all worse right now.
Yeah. I mean, I think there just are no checks and balances to it. In the Wild West and all that stuff, like that's it's become cliche, but it just is, it doesn't feel like there's I don't know, people call them guardrails. Like, I don't know what guardrails, like, I feel like that's kind of a buzzword, but it's like it doesn't feel like there's anything that keeps someone from or like makes someone have to do things the right way. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not saying that what they're doing is wrong, but it doesn't feel like there's any sort of framework for how it should work. And so then everyone's doing something different. And then it makes it to where the playing field in these situations is just, it doesn't feel level, to fans or to anyone, but it never has really like been level at the end of the day, because if you look at it, and I think that you said it well, that when you're making the decision for yourself, for what you think is best for you, like as a student athlete, like you have every right to do that. And no one should be able to question that. And at the end of the day, it's not like he went and picked a school that is like not producing people to go to the NFL and win Outland trophies and do all those kinds of things. This is the best place in the world to go and play, to learn how to be an offensive lineman. Iowa's one of the best places. Alabama is the only one that's probably better, And so it's like, there's a lot, but people immediately make it. It's like, oh, it's about NIL. It's about NIL. And I'm sure that there are aspects of it that are about NIL, but I don't think that anyone should be like mad that that's that fact, because it's like, this doesn't feel like a thing where it's blatantly like, it makes no sense for him to go there besides NIL. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And NIL really, I don't know why all the blame is being put on that. You said it correctly. Like, even before NIL, if this happened, it's nothing new. Like, it's a blue blood in football. Like,
it's the best college football program in the country. If not the best, it's one of the 2 or 3 best,
Right. Like, it makes complete sense why someone would want to do that. And Iowa is going to be, I still think they'll get more recruits in because of NIL, and they're going to lose some. It's just how it is. It's how it's always been. Even before NIL, there's going to be recruits that are going to decommit and go to different schools. It's nothing new there. I don't know why all of a sudden it's became so heated over NIL being the reason. Like, there's going to be some outliers, that they decide to go somewhere else for NIL. But at the end of the day, man, you have to think what's best for the kids. And I'd be willing to bet that, one, I think I said this last week, if you're looking at NIL and recruits coming out of high school, they shouldn't be looking at the money first. Like, it's a byproduct, right? So
yes.
Yeah. So if they're smart enough kids and are raised correctly, they realize like that's going to be a byproduct of how well they do on the field. NIL should never be the sole reason why someone commits to a school. Now, transferring is a little different because you've already established your kind of brand in college, but recruits, I feel like majority of recruits will do a good job of deciphering between the two.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I feel like at the end of the day, like, if Cade McNamara didn't like Iowa City, like he's not gonna go to Iowa regardless of what they pay him, and you can go make money somewhere else, if you don't see it being a good situation for you. So that's where, people say it's all about NIL or it's all about this. It's like, I'm sure that there's a lot of places that would offer people a lot of money to go and play there. But if you go there and you're like, I don't feel comfortable here, I don't want to be here, I don't feel like this is a place that I can be successful, then you're not going to go there, unless you're thinking about it from the wrong perspective and you're going into it for the wrong things, looking for the wrong, because I feel like more people need to think about, it's like, it's not about what am I going to get when I'm 18 years old. It's like, what am I going to get for the rest of my life? To how am I going to set myself up best to go and make millions down the road, rather than like get this financial windfall right now that could be a percentage point of whatever I'm going to make in the future if I set myself up the right way and go and do what I need to do.
I completely agree with that. And that kind of goes along with how this has always been a thing too, right? I kind of want to emphasize that, like, even before NIL, this has always happened. Alabama's going to get the best recruits because of the tradition and rich history that they established at that school. That is like, that has nothing to do with NIL, nothing to do with anything that people want to blame it on. Like, you can blame it on under the table payments. Maybe they're doing that. Like, and it's even more under the table. It's not as transparent as NIL is making it out to be, but this has been happening for years on end. It's nothing new that this has been going on.
A lot of this would be avoided if there was profit sharing with the student athletes.
Correct.
That was set out by the conference where, not everybody's making the same, but it's like there's some sort of framework for this is how it's going to work. There's a union that the players are coming to that are agreeing to these numbers at certain percentages for certain things or certain, whatever incentives for different things. And if that was done and you made it more like an actual professional sport, then a lot of these issues would be resolved. And a lot of people, I think, a lot of that element of what people feel like isn't fair would go away.
Yeah, 100%. And honestly, like, to be honest, Jared, you don't even need to have a union, basically. Like, you want it to be fair, but you have a model already that's been working in professional sports. Like 50% revenue sharing has worked in NBA and NFL. You let that NCAA come out and let that be the guideline. And schools, you don't have to do it. You just let schools decide if they want to be involved with revenue sharing with their school. Obviously, it would be a smart move to do it because more kids are going to go to your school. But I think that balances a lot of things out, and you have that even playing field for a lot of these schools. Again, the bigger schools are always going to attract the bigger talent. That's how it is. That's how professional works too, right? Like there's Golden State's attracting unbelievable.
Yeah, there's always going to be
years.
There's always going to be someone who wants to play for the Los Angeles Lakers or for the New York Yankees or the Boston Red Sox or whoever, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you can't make every single team fair. Like life's not fair. That's not how that works. Every recruit isn't the same. Like people are better than certain people. They're going to go to better schools. Better schools are always going to same thing. They're always going to have the best recruits too. So I think to be honest, Jared, I think some people just live in this like fairy world where they're so like understanding of how everything works in the outside world, but as soon as we start talking about college sports in that world, like people like they lose their minds. Like honestly, they lose their minds. Like when NIL happened, people were like, oh, why should we pay these kids? Like they're not professionals. Like they it's a full-time job, man. There's revenue. This is a billion-dollar industry. Like how do you make sense of that on the outside of college sports? But once we start talking about college sports, so many people lose their fucking mind over it. It's so college sports, man. Like it's honestly, it should not be this big of an issue, like controversy for a lot of people. I don't understand it. I really don't.
It shouldn't be such this thing that people take like a moral stance on, you know.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. What's it matter to you? What difference does it make if the kid gets money? No difference whatsoever. None. And that's where like, you know, people say, oh, it ruins teams and things like that. Like there's the tweet, Fran Fraschilla, I was going to bring this up. This was from last week. He said, quote, I am hearing that some talented college teams are starting to crack because of NIL payments not being made on time, NIL promises not kept, or jealousy among teammates. Not a value judgment on NIL. It's just human nature. The new normal. That was on Twitter. There's a lot to unpack there because I think that there's a lot of holes to be poked in that entire that entire statement. But I mean, the first thing, no, I want to come back to this one. The promises not kept, or the jealousy among teammates. Like jealousy among teammates is a thing that's been happening forever. That's always been a problem for teams. When has there ever been a team that there weren't people who were jealous of someone who was getting more minutes than them, that was getting the ball more than them, that was getting more opportunities to go and talk to the media or whatever it may be? That has always been part of the team dynamic. So to even conclude that in this thing with NIL as something that people all of a sudden we can't get over it, that doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
It's so bizarre, and that's exactly what I'm talking about. Like, how is that even a thing to be said about college sports teams? Like, people are jealous, and it's breaking teams. Like, first of all, if you want to be jealous, like you said, there's players playing more, there's players getting the ball more, coaches are being paid absurd amounts of money. If anyone should be jealous, it's the players that should be jealous of the coaches. They should be jealous of the coaches making all the money that they should be making. Like, and you have reporters like that coming on and saying, and then you have coaches talking about it. Like, first off, is that big of a deal, man? Like, you need to reevaluate your life and how like you look at college sports, because this doesn't if you look at it from a non-biased scope, how does that even make sense that teams would be jealous? And that this whole like argument that people have regarding that jealousy makes absolutely no sense, because that has always been a thing.
And at the end of the day too, if you're teammates with someone and you really have their back and you're their brother, you're happy for them. You're not jealous of them. You're like, yeah, you might sit there and say like, well, maybe I should get a little bit more too, but that's not meaning that you're jealous of them. You know, it's just like you start to understand what your value might be. You know, I feel like that's just part of the game. Like how is that not part of just being a teammate? You know, isn't that I mean, if one of your teammates is making money from NIL, are you jealous of them? You know?
Shouldn't be. If you have a great team,
No.
like, and if you look at it from a pro aspect, like the pro teams, I'm sure as hell there's people that are jealous that they signed max contracts on their, like Steph Curry signed a max contract. There's probably someone in the NBA that's jealous of it, but they
You
know
think that
he
there's
fucking
nobody
earned it.
You think there's nobody who's jealous of the fact that LeBron James has a lifetime deal worth $1 billion with Nike? Every
Right.
person on the planet is jealous of LeBron James having a lifetime deal worth $1 billion with Nike. Everyone. That doesn't mean that it would get in the way of the fact that they think that LeBron James is a good person or whatever, or like would want to play basketball with them. You know, that's just that's just crazy to even throw that out there. And that's like, it's like I said, like these are things that have always been there. They're just like, it comes from a different avenue now that all of a sudden could be, you know, thrown a wrench into things. And if you're worried about that, then like you're probably someone that most people wouldn't want to play with anyway.
It's just like athletes making money. I don't know why it's such a polarizing issue. Like people get so butthurt about it and it gets so political. Like all of a sudden we start talking about players getting paid. Like it blows my mind. But as soon as coaches sign $1 million contracts and it gets increased every single year, coaches are making $100,000 bonus for winning 20 plus games in a season. Like no one talks about that. Like, but once we split that avenue with players, like we have reporters tweeting stuff like that, coaches come out, you know, saying stuff about kids and, you know, there's cheating happening, blah, blah, blah. Like it doesn't make any sense to me. I really this has always been an issue for me when I advocate for college athletes because there's just some people, man. It's really hard to have a direct dialogue with them and be respectful.
The idea of NIL promises not being kept, again, this is like anybody who thinks that promises not being kept is a new issue in college athletics has never heard of recruiting or doesn't know how the recruiting pitch works, because that's like literally basically every recruiting pitch from, I bet 75% of college coaches is some sort of promise of something, you know, whether that, you know, every coach is going to give you the cliche bullshit. You got to come in here and earn your spot and you're not going to get handed anything or anything like that. But like, come on, man. Like we know how this stuff works, you know, and you know why so many kids go in the transfer portal? Because a lot of them get there and realize that what they were pitched and what they were promised is not what they got. So they go and find a new place. And that's just part of the game. Like that's just what it is. But if people are making a deal for NIL and things like that, and there's not paying people then after that, that's really disappointing because that's the adults in the room showing exactly what I told you last week, where I said that I wasn't 100% sure that I feel like a lot of these adults are in this for more than just their ego. They're not in it because of the athletes. They're not in it to do anything more than fuel their ego of putting their money out there and saying, oh, we're going to pay this person however much money to go to our school. And then they're not actually going to follow through on it because it wasn't really about that anyway. It was about making a splash and making themselves sound like they're doing something on the recruiting trail again. And this is like what recruiting is.
Yeah. And you have to be naive to think that like broken promises has never been like, it's just becoming a thing now with NIL. Like you think about, I keep using this example, but coaches being paid all this amount of money, like they have a lot more power, they have a lot more leeway, like they can go out and get the better recruits, go to the houses and pitch all these great promises, right? But as soon as like these promises are made, as soon as they're made and then they're broken, these athletes want to find somewhere else, which, you know, that's life. Like that happens. Like it just doesn't work out in some places. But that avenue that we're talking about, okay, as soon as the athlete has a broken promise and they want to go somewhere else, now it's a problem that athletes, that they have an opportunity to go somewhere else, and they shouldn't be. They should stick it out and play with that coach that, you know, maybe he didn't work as hard, but also maybe the promises weren't made.
Mm-hmm.
And people want to be political about an athlete wanting to stay there for 4 years and tough it out and, you know, pull up his bootstraps and get after it. Like I understand that mentality, but at the end of the day, there's a lot of broken promises that's been happening for hundreds of years, ever since the dawn of college sports. All this, the same shit that's happening right now that everyone is blaming NIL on, the birth of college sports, when that happened, that's when everything else happened that we're talking about still today.
And at the end of the day, who put the team together? The team didn't work. If the team's not working, it's not gelling the way that you need it to. Who built the team? The coaches did. You know, they're the ones who brought the guys together, that put the teams together, that, you know, whatever it may be with the NIL. Obviously, they probably weren't directly involved with any of that, but, you know, they're the ones that it's your job to get the team and make sure that all of these things are going to work and that everybody's going to be cohesive. That is probably the biggest part of being a college coach. I don't know what bigger job there is. That's putting your culture in place. You know, that's what you are as a college head coach, is being that culture builder, that guy that is the rock of the program. And then that's where it's like, if your team is volatile and your team is, especially to the extent that this might be what's breaking them down, maybe that is more a reflection of what's going on with the coaching than it is anything else at the end of the day.
And we saw that with Underwood too at Illinois. I think we talked about it 2 weeks ago when that happened, and he said the lack of leadership from his players when they lost to Penn State, referring to that. And that's a perfect example for what you're alluding to, Jared, is you're being paid millions of dollars. Like, it'd be a different scenario if these players were professionals already and they got, you know, some sort of the pie that they're creating for these schools. But man, like, when you come out and out the players, like, that's literally your job, man. Like, to be that leader, to lead those players, and like, if there's problems in NIL on your team, like, you can't blame NIL for that. You can't come out and say my team is broken because of NIL. My team is broken because of the transfer portal. Like, you're being paid millions of dollars. Like, I'm not even just talking about Underwood. There's any coach because there's been numerous coaches that come out and have said some stuff, and reporters have said some stuff about their teams. If you're getting paid that amount of money, you should be worth it. Like, you should be able to figure out some little boo-boos on your team that literally that is not that big of a deal.
Have a hard conversation. Sit down and have a hard conversation you're the adult. Like, you're the leader. That's your job. If you got two guys on your team that have beef or whatever it may be, like, isn't your job to sit them down and say, hey, we got to figure this out for the good of the team? You know, that's literally what the coach is there to do. You're the adult. Make them show them this is how it's supposed to be. It's about being a leader and all these kinds of things. That's what it takes, you know, and to not do those, that's to then just like swing that immediately around on the players who are the ones that are being taught. Like, they're the students. They're not the ones that are the teacher in this situation. You know, that's what doesn't make sense to me sometimes. I'm just like, man, I don't know. Like, the programs need to look inward more often than what they do a lot of times with a lot of these problems, or the coaches, I mean, more than the programs, and not put it so much on the players sometimes. It's just sometimes things are just dysfunctional, you know? Like, yeah. When I was in school, like, I could tell you right now, why was my team bad that I played for? Because everything was dysfunctional with our program. Everything was weird, you know? And it just was one of those deals where, like, you go to practice in the morning or in the afternoon and you're like, man, what kind of crazy shit is going to happen today? And then we would lose the games every time, you know? And it's like, it's not because we didn't have any talent. It's because we had it's just like nothing is cohesive, you know?
I think that's the main concept too. Kind of, I feel like what we're both getting at is just the lack of leadership, not only with these teams, but just with the NCAA as a whole. I mean, we have the college sports landscape. I mean, we both obviously know this, but it is not a mature group of individuals. I mean, we look at coaches, recent headlines like domestic abuse, sexual harassment, like waivers being blocked by the NCAA. Like, we can bring up hundreds of examples just from this past year. You know, players dying in workouts. Like, there is a severe lack of leadership from not only the NCAA, but lack of maturity. I guess I want to say more instead of lack of leadership. And a lot of lack of maturity, not only from the NCAA, it stems from the coaches from these programs, man. Like, they get paid all this money. Like, they could be great coaches, but they want to preach lack of leadership on their teams. They want to preach lack of maturity on their teams. Majority of these like programs, it starts with these coaches, man. And there's issues that they aren't looking inward, like you're talking about, that they have problems with their own families. They have problems with their own, you know, individual selves. Like, they need to figure out before they can preach maturity. And I think that causes a great root of the problems with not only looking at it as a coach's aspect, but the lack of maturity from the NCAA as well.
Yeah. And I think, man, you don't hear like Bill Self talk that much about needing more leadership from his team. Like, I mean, I'm sure you do sometimes, but it's just like you don't ever hear him come out and say like, man, we got no leaders in the locker room, you know? Like, I don't feel like the really good coaches, one, you're not going to see them throw their team under the bus like that. But then two, that again, that's their job, is to foster that within and foster that environment to build that. And it just is, I don't know. That tweet from Fraschilla was very much just like old school coach carrying water for other old school coaches to me, you know, very much barking at cloud type of, or yelling at clouds type of situation.
And it almost felt like what we were talking about last week. Like, it goes perfectly about how some of these reporters, like, I'm sure I've never talked to Fran, like on a personal level. I've been interviewed by him a couple of times, but man, like, this is exactly what we're talking about with some reporters. Like, it's almost like they're like, what are you accomplishing with this? Like, are you helping like, there's nothing reason to even tweet that or say something about that. Is like, is he trying to make a note to one of his friends that is a coaching in the coaching world that their team is struggling? Like, I just think it's like a perfect segue into what we were talking about last week.
Yeah, for sure. And then it was made even better today by Pat Narduzzi, who tweeted or who said, I'm not sure 100% sure where he said this, but on a radio station, he's heard 2 schools offered UNC quarterback Drake May $5 million to transfer. He wouldn't say who, but he knows who. And then he said, quote, "It's sad. It's a sad, sad deal." I don't know of another industry where someone working hard and earning $5 million is a bad thing, but according to Pat Narduzzi, college sports is the only one of them, or is one of them, I suppose.
What's so funny about this, if you think there's like, I don't know his extent on this comment that he made in the interview, but if he thinks there's a legal wrongdoing or there's something wrong with that or whatever, like, report to the NCAA, man. Like, you literally, it's like a part of the like NCAA handbook. Like, if you see any wrongdoing, like, report to NCAA. Like, tell them what's going on. Like, obviously he doesn't see this as being like a legal problem then. So like, what even is the point of saying something to have a player make all this money?
You know what's sad? What's sad is if a drug dealer makes $5 million selling fentanyl. That's what's sad. That is sad. A quarterback making $5 million to go and sling the rock around is not sad. It's not sad. Whether you like it or not, or whether you think that quarterback is worth it or not, somebody does, and they want to give him the money, and that's all. Like, that's nobody else's problem, and it doesn't affect anybody else, unless I guess you're a North Carolina fan. Which in which case, if you care that much, then I don't know. I don't know what to tell you.
And that's the fairy tale we're talking about, like, on this show. Once college sports in the world, like, it's just a fairy tale world, and he's gonna complain about that. All right, it was sad. What we were talking about, sad world. Like, that's a great example. Well, you did too, but let's talk about one in the college sports world. The fucking coaches just having exponentially increasing their salary while the college athletes stay the same. And you're going to complain about athlete finally deserving money that people want to pay them. Like, I think it's pathetic, and it's down to the immaturity that I was just talking about, and it's that's sad. That's what I think is really sad.
And I can't imagine why people keep transferring away to, like, it shocks me that people don't want to play for Pat Narduzzi, you know?
Yeah.
Like, why would you want to? Why would you want to play for someone in 2022? Anybody who takes that kind of approach, why would you want to play for them?
There's no reason. And I do want to point this out too, because it kind of goes along with Fran had a press conference, and he was talking about college athletes getting paid and such, and I can't remember what the reporter asked, who the reporter asked the question to, but he was perfect about it. He was like talking about like college athletes deserve to get paid. Like, it's been far too long. Like, it's just the world we live in now. Like, that's how you should handle it. Like, you should not want to revert back to something that is illegal, and hopefully the NCAA is charged for what they've been doing for these athletes for hundreds of years for what they've been controlling with their monopoly. But that's how you should handle as a coach. Like, moving forward, like, go along with the needle. Don't try to push the needle back. What does that do for your program? Not only is that hurting your program, it's hurting your team too by saying stuff like that.
Yeah, it just is. It's just a weird time, man. It's just a weird time. And I think a lot of the anger and angst about it just comes from change. People just don't like change. You know, they've been told that something is bad for a really long time, so they're just convinced in their mind that thing is bad, even though in reality it's not a big deal whatsoever.
Yeah, that's a great example. But I mean, it's the same thing I have been saying is that fairy tale once college sports is brought about, everyone just loses their minds on, and for whatever reason, like college athletes being paid some sort of money is downright criminal to a lot of people, and that I'll never understand those guys' arguments. It just doesn't. It doesn't. Anyone that has common sense, it just doesn't make sense to them.
And nobody should be on Twitter tweeting at people, telling them like being mad at people for doing what they think they should do for themselves. You know, that it doesn't impact you at all. It is like,
it's bizarre. It's
yeah.
almost bizarre. You think about it. Like you have people on Twitter, because I think it happened with, was it Hunter when he transferred out of Iowa State to go to Texas, right?
Yeah, Tyrese.
It's kind of the same like situation if you think about it. Like people, because I want to play both sides of it here, right? Like Iowa is like talking about like wanting Proctor to go to Iowa, which makes sense because you're a fan of the team, but like it's almost it's bizarre to think about.
Disappointed. You can be disappointed he's not going to play for your team. Yeah.
But you can't be controlling like on both sides. Iowa State was controlling like Hunter should have stayed, like blah blah blah. That was his best situation to stay in Iowa State and play for the Cyclone. And Iowa too. Like Proctor, why would he leave? Like he's a hometown kid. He deserved to put the black and gold on. Like it's not your right. Like you can say obviously it's your right to say that, but it's not. It's bizarre to think about it. Like you want to control a kid's future because you're such a fan of a team. Mm-hmm. Like it's kind of it's a bizarre dilemma.
Again, it's okay to. I feel like it's okay to be disappointed. You know, you can you can be sad, but it's like there's no reason to be angry about it. The guy was going to leave in 4 years anyway, 3, 4, 5 years, whatever it's going to be. It's not like he was going to be around forever. You know, It just is like, it's just one of those things. I don't know. People come and go. College sports, like people just come and go. You know, you can't hold on to it at that point till you get angry about it. It's just not even worth. Like I work in this stuff, and I can tell you, it's not worth that. You know.
Yeah, I think, and I'll kind of go back to what we were talking about first. I think once there's some power shift from the NCAA towards these athletes and giving them more leeway with revenue sharing and having a little more level playing field with how NIL is handled state to state, I think it will provide a little more transparency. Because at the end of the day, like these athletes making all this amount of money, like people want to say it's crazy, like what they're being made now. It's only going to go up. Like we're only at the day one of this, of day 365. Like it's only going to continue and increase, and people are going to continue to watch college sports. I hate everyone saying as soon as athletes get paid, it's going to ruin the integrity of the game. Bro, you're going to tune on your TV every Saturday and you're going to watch college football. I don't care whether they're making $5 million, $10 million, $15 million quarterback. You're going to tune in to watch that fucking team play.
You know how we know? Because how many people fucking watch the NFL on Sundays? Millions. More than people watch college football. A lot more than people watch college football.
And if people want to debate that too, just look at the numbers in the viewership, not only for college basketball currently going on, college football that happened, NFL. The numbers are going up. They're still going up. Like
people are just getting more and more interested. Yeah.
Yeah. Like you
everybody's up in arms in this, while meanwhile Courtney Green and Jim Boeheim still have jobs. Why can't we get in uproar about something else?
You got a great point. He did kill someone. He still has a job. And you brought up a good point. I did not know about this.
I completely forgot about this too. Yeah.
He had an assistant coach that had sexual accusations against him or something. I don't know the extent to it. I don't want to misspeak on it, but
it was allegations of sexual assault against two Syracuse ball boys at one point. This is like 10 years ago. The Bernie Fine story. Anybody out there who is interested in that, you can look that up. And it's, it's not like Jerry Sandusky, but it's like Jerry Sandusky light, you know, the type of thing that in 2022, even just like 10 years later, which it doesn't seem like that long, 10 years later, you're getting your ass is being fired. Like 100%.
Right.
There's 0% chance I think that any coach is getting through that.
But that's what's so funny, dude.
Especially
Like,
one that's as old as Jim Boeheim. Like it was like 10
yeah.
years ago that they made Mike Hopkins or whatever the coach in waiting there.
Mhm. And it's funny, this is like perfectly for what everything we're talking about, because like we have guys like that like are hiring coaches that are there's sexual allegations against them, and they want to talk about maturity and leadership, lack of leadership. It goes perfectly everything we're talking about. Another example, like how are you gonna have guys like that run a program and expect to grow young men and expect them to want them to have a great future when you have guys like that in your program and you're
And like,
hiring them for millions of dollars?
and don't get me wrong, man. Like there's always gonna, people say there's always bad apples. Like there's always in every group of people, like there's gonna be bad people. But there are so many basketball players. Again, like I think I said this last week. There's so many basketball coaches on this planet. I don't understand why people are so convinced that they have to keep these particular ones. It's like there's so many coaches out there, you got to find a new one. There's going to be another new one however many days, like in a couple of years. Like that's just how it goes. It's just that we get new basketball coaches, and yet people like defend them to the point of where even if your coach has a longtime assistant has allegations like this, you keep your job for another 10 years.
Yeah.
And you kill someone.
And you kill someone. You did send that YouTube video too. I that was the first time I watched that.
Oh yeah, the applause. Yeah, he got a standing ovation. I completely forgot that they played Duke that next game. It was so it's his good friend Mike Krzyzewski. I wonder how Coach Krzyzewski felt. Coach K, I wonder how he felt when the spotlight wasn't all on him going to the Carrier Dome. His friend Jim got the spotlight.
It's crazy. Like if people are listening, if you go on YouTube and watch the video, dude, because I knew that there's like an ovation and stuff, but I never actually watched the video of it. It is insane
It's
if
a
you think about
standing ovation. A standing
bro,
ovation. Yeah.
Like I laughed. Like I feel bad for the guy that died and the family.
Right. Like don't get us wrong. Like we know that it was an accident. Like we understand it was an accident, but it just is wild to think about however many years later. Yeah.
But like as soon as like you win games though, and you're like a public figure like that, people forget it. Like
yeah.
They don't care. They don't care about the sexual allegations that happened with the assistant coaches. They don't care as long as you're winning basketball games. Who cares?
I thought it was funny too. I saw a tweet or something from I think Jeff Goodman was quoting somebody's tweet or something like that, or saying something about how Roy Williams goes to all these North Carolina games and he hadn't seen Coach K at a single Duke game. And in the back of my mind, I was like, this is what shows you the difference between Roy Williams and Coach K. I think Roy Williams is awesome, dude. I love Coach K, Roy Williams, but I cannot stand Coach K. Coach K, you already know the first time he goes back to Cameron Indoor, it's going to be like an event. Roy Williams just like pops up because Roy Williams loves college basketball. Like he goes to West Virginia games. He's been to Kansas. Like he doesn't need it to be about him. He's like, I'm just going out to the game. Like it's no big deal or anything like that. I just always thought that was funny. But yeah,
that's a good point. I never thought about that.
Yeah. We all aspire to be Roy Williams, who can just go wherever he wants to and go to a basketball game and just sit. Like I feel like
that
at
is
that
pretty
point,
special. He does that.
Yeah, at that point, if Roy Williams shows up at the gate of any arena in the country, he should just be let in. Like there's certain people out there, that man doesn't buy a ticket. Bob Huggins, that guy doesn't buy a ticket,
Yeah.
Their money's no good.
I can only imagine like you're one of the ticket people. You see Roy Williams walk in. You're like, that'd be $45.
I'm gonna guess that he's not going in the normal exits or normal entrances.
I never know. He seems like a guy that might would.
He was out in Portland when I was out there. I should have dabbed up with him.
Yeah, you should have just sat by him.
Well, when I was in when we played at the state tournament when I was in high school, we sat in the suites we were watching Linmar. We were watching Marcus Page play.
Yeah, I remember he was there.
Roy was in the suite sitting right next to us. So that was cool. So I have kind of sat next to him before.
Oh, so I was like 4 rows like to the left of him and like in the middle of the section. Like I remember I looked over my right shoulder and saw his suite. So like maybe we made eye contact about 10
we could
years
have.
ago.
We could have. We just
didn't know.
Yeah. 10 years ago, man. It feels like 10 years ago. It's been I can tell
How long
you.
has it been? I was just guessing. Was that actually 10 years ago?
Yeah, 2012. Me and Marcus were in the
Damn.
same class. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah. I'm
damn, you're
old,
4
man.
years older than me?
I am. I'm old head, bro.
Wow. That's
You need to
why
show some respect. You need to show some respect to your elders.
now I get why you said your back was hurting, like you pulled the old card last weekend. And
Yeah.
now it's on. I didn't realize you're 37. I get it.
Oh, I mean, you're like 45 with how many years of college basketball you played.
Dude,
Of all people to talk to me about being an old man, I don't think that you're the one.
how do I still have people commenting on my age, bro? You're old. People are older than me and calling me old ass motherfuckers. Like,
Dude, the one that from the other day killed me. What was the guy? Oregon Ducks tight end Cam McCormick considering returning for 8th season and has been granted a 9th year of eligibility. That's
it's
incredible.
crazy. Like, he's actually like 8th and 9th year. Like, and people are tweeting at me like I played longer than he is, and I'm older than him. That's what's crazy about it. Like, bro, I am 25, brother.
You don't look near as old as Perry Ellis did. I'll give you that.
I got it. Yeah, I still think
And
I have
Perry
a
Ellis
little.
didn't even actually. I don't even know if he played more than 4 years of college. It felt like he
He's still
played a lot more
playing
than 4
now.
years. I thought he was like an
Maybe
assistant coach for somebody.
No, he was playing overseas, I thought.
No, I thought he was an assistant for Kansas or something, like on their grad assistants or something like that. I don't remember. Maybe not. All right, man. You got anything
Yeah,
else?
he's still playing. He's still playing. He's still playing.
I should have known better. That dude's gonna be playing forever. He'll probably be playing until he's 65, and he'll probably look younger when he's 65 than he did when he was 22.
Dude, he does look really old. There's no way like people can.
Dude, did you see the video of this had me fucking cracking up today? A video of Dwight Howard. So he's playing in Thailand. Did you
Bular, bro.
Yeah, playing against Sim Bular, dude.
Bro,
Oh my god.
I used to love playing with Bular
crying.
on 2K, bro. I used to dominate with him.
That had me fucking crying, dude. Oh my god.
What's crazy is Dwight looks like he's 5'7" compared to that dude.
Yeah. Well, and it was funny because Bomani Jones was tweeting about how, like how incredible it is that Dwight was as good as he was at his size. And all these people are like, Dwight's huge and all these things like that. And it's like, Dwight's like 6'9" or like 6'10". Like he is, like, don't get me wrong. Like he's a big dude, but like you think about him guarding like some of the guys, Shaquille O'Neal, 7'3",
Yeah.
like he's 5 inches shorter. It's Sim Bular's, I think 7'6". It's like he's like half a foot shorter than him,
And he's like 340, 350. That's a massive human being.
Yeah. Incredible. Yeah. Man, Dwight Howard, dude, he had like 30 points. He had like a triple-double or something like that in his first game over there. He did not have a good night yesterday, it looked like, though, against Sim Bular.
Yeah,
Sim Bular he was MVP of Thailand's T1 league, I saw.
Oh, was he? So he is?
Yeah, last year he was. Yeah, he was.
Good for him. I'm a big fan of that dude.
What do you think he makes to play basketball in Thailand?
Oh, I bet he makes really good money.
I bet he does, especially being the MVP of the league. Like I'm sure that's actually.
I bet he makes over 500,000. I bet. Top league of. Yeah,
I didn't realize basketball was big like that in Thailand. I guess.
Dude, some of these top leagues, man, like they pay pretty well overseas. I mean, I guess.
What would they have to pay you for you to go play in Thailand with Dwight Howard? Dwight Howard recruits you. He says, "Jordan, I want you on my team."
Dude,
what do we got to pay you?
I don't know. I've never been to Thailand. Is that like a good country?
I mean, I guess I don't want to offend anybody from Thailand. I don't know much about it.
Do we have any Thailand listeners?
I mean, it's an island, I think, like in the South Pacific. It can't be.
Oh, no shit.
It can't be too bad.
It says Thailand.
What does that have to do with anything?
I don't know.
I mean, it could still be an island and be land. I think Tyler have been there. Never been there.
Yeah, it doesn't really, I can't see the numbers, but I would imagine he makes really, really good money.
Yeah, man, That would be an experience for sure. All right, man. We'll talk to you again next week. Have a good Christmas. Enjoy the holidays. Hopefully you don't get too cold when you get back to Iowa. So enjoy your last time in Vegas, because I think it's supposed to be like minus 52 on Thursday. Yeah.
I need prayers. I have a flight. We play 11 o'clock tomorrow morning, in Vegas time. Fly out at 4:30. We booked our flight so we can try to beat the storm. We fly into Phoenix at 7, and we fly into Des Moines around 11:30 at night, and I'm gonna drive back home to be with my family before the storm hits early on Thursday morning. So I am praying. I need prayers from listeners. I get to see my family safely, and yeah, I love Christmas, dude. I know this might be cliche, but man, just spending time with family, bro. It just times like these, like I am very grateful for it, because not a lot of people get to experience being with family and being close with them and having loving people around. I always cherish these times.
Absolutely, man. I agree. So everybody have a happy holidays. We are going to record an episode next week, so we'll talk to you guys again here in a week. Peace.